Well, good morning, everyone. It's 5 minutes after 9, and we've allowed a little bit of time for everybody to join us here this morning. And would just like to echo what I'm seeing over in the chat this morning. Good morning, and it is great to see all of you, albeit virtually. Uh, Hi again, everybody. I'm Mark Browning. I'm the Vice President for College Relations, and I'll act as kind of the moderator of our spring address today. We've got a great program lined up and excited to spend some time with all of us together as we get ready to serve our students yet again for another semester here. We do have a couple of housekeeping items that we'd like to pass along to you just as we're getting started here this morning. So you'll notice at the bottom of your screen, there's a transcription button. And if you want to enlarge that text or hide it from your view, there's an option to do that. And you're seeing how to do that now on your screen. And this will help us connect with everybody who's on the call. So you can certainly set those according to your level of comfort. We're asking that you use the Q&A function, which is right to the immediate left if you're looking at the screen this morning, to the transcription button. And that will be where you'll submit your questions that will be on the panel for the President's Cabinet at a little bit deeper into our program. So this is a webinar feature today. So all of our videos will be off except for the person who is speaking at that time. And that ensures that window with the speaker will pop up and be the most prominent on your screen. So we are recording all of our events this morning, and they will be made available on the website and sent out once they're published. So if you happen to miss something, didn't get a note down, or wanted to hear again maybe something that was said, there will be an opportunity to go back and review that. So before we get going here, I just want to say thank you to all of you. I'm just always amazed at the energy and the positivity. I miss being in the big room, and I certainly miss the bacon. And but there you go. So if you don't have some on the stove out in the kitchen, grab it now. I think that's part of our tradition here at the CWI, but really part of our tradition is this energy and positivity, and I'm seeing that in the chat this morning. So I wanted to thank you for all of that. And if you're like Laura and you've already had your bacon, good for you. You are off to a good start on this Wednesday morning. So speaking of a good start, I want to introduce our good president, Dr. Burke Glandon, who will kick us off this morning. Bert.
Thanks for coming to the CWI in-service this January. We are really grateful to have everybody coming back in. Hope you had a wonderful holiday season and really got refreshed, renewed, and reinvigorated in order to get back to the start of the spring semester. We are so grateful for all that you've accomplished this last year, and I think we're all thrilled that 2020 is behind us. We got a great day of events coming up for you. We've got a lot of activities and things that you're going to be involved in. Please stick with us, and we hope that you will be able to walk away with some material coming out of this in-service activity today. Thank you so very much for all the hard work in 2020, and we wish you the very best and most success in this spring semester 2021. Looking forward to a brand new year with each and every one of you. Thank you, faculty, staff, for making CWI the great place that it is today. Now, over to you, Trustee Lenti.
Welcome to 2021. I know for many of us, this last year has brought forward a lot of challenges. However, it's also presented a lot of opportunities. I'm just so appreciative of the work that you all have done as faculty and staff to support our students through this past year. You embody the culture at the College of Western Idaho and make such a difference in the work that you do day in and day out. I'm really excited that this year we've been able to welcome 3 new trustees and have really enjoyed seeing their excitement and enthusiasm around supporting the college. I know today is a big day with lots of information and provides the opportunity for new learning and important dialogue, and I really encourage you to enjoy the day.
Well, thank you, President, and thank you, Chairwoman Lenti, the new chair of our Board of Trustees. Appreciate you taking some time to help welcome us all in. We did want to provide an opportunity too for both of our senates, both our faculty senate and our staff senate, to welcome all of their membership and the college in its entirety back for the new semester.
Hi, CWI, Stephanie Ritchie-Breet Chair, Faculty Senate President, and I want to welcome you back for spring semester, and thank goodness it's finally 2021. Wasn't 2020 just a crazy ride for all of us? So first off, I just want to thank you guys for everything that you did to make to make spring and fall semesters successful for our students. I know that it was not easy in spring semester, changing our modalities halfway through, and then trying to manage through fall semester with different types of classes, teaching in the classroom, teaching online, and sometimes doing it both at the same time. And I know that was a challenge, and I'm so proud of you for all of the hard work you did for our students. And we survived it, you guys. We made it through that semester. This semester, just to fill you in on a few things that Senate's doing, we have completed our revisions to the Faculty Senate Handbook, so you should be seeing that soon, and I appreciate the committee that worked on that. And we have worked on some new policies with HR and developing those, working with adjunct committee as well. So we have lots of great things ahead of us for this year. If anyone is interested in joining any committees or wanting to do any service at the college, please reach out to me and let me know. And I wish I was seeing all of you in person, but have a wonderful spring semester. Go Otters.
Hi, my name is Blake Mimish. I'm a Student Success Advisor for Public Safety Programs here at the College of Western Idaho. But most importantly, I'm a staff senator. I represent you all, the staff here at CWI. I work collectively with staff senators who represent cross-department representation throughout the college to adhere to all of the needs of staff here at the college. So what does that mean? What do we do? Well, we take your questions and your issues and your concerns and even your ideas, we address them, we help formulate them, and possibly facilitate those to the higher levels of administration. 2020 has been a very challenging year for all of us, and that's no different for all of us at Staff Senate. I've been super excited and honored to be able to work with a team that has faced those issues head on. We've spent a lot of our time shifting all of our operations to be fully online. We have helped get all of our tasks moved on over to version 1 to create that level of transparency. So if you have concerns or questions or anything that we've been working on, you can see those happening in real time. 2020 has also brought us some challenges at Staff Senate. Currently, we're void of any officer positions, so we are running without a president, a vice president, or a treasurer. So the senators as a whole have been sharing all the responsibilities. In that, we have created new bylaws to establish that shared responsibility. So in writing, in any future staff senates coming down the road, we'll have that direction moving forward. We have created for our part-time employees full-time representation through Staff Senate, so they're fully represented. We have built Staff Senate into our onboarding training for staff, new staff members coming through, so they know how and what Staff Senate is and how it represents them. Annually, we do things by facilitating campaigns like Rake Up Nampa, food boxes, giving trees, diaper donations. We do staff recognition, we do Staff Employee of the Month, and we also do the annual Staff Senate breakfast for all staff members at CWI. Things we're working towards, we're looking for better online representation via, if that's online and or over the website. exciting time as we have some elections coming up here, May 2021, where we'll have hopefully a call back to balance, getting some officer positions filled. That's president, vice president, and treasurer, along with some new senators. So how do you get a hold of us? Well, you can simply email us at staffsenate@cwi.edu. You can reach out to one of your staff senators, or you can simply come to one of our meetings. We're excited to continue to represent you, the staff, the constituency here at CWI. So we really hope to see you at a meeting soon. Stay well, stay healthy, and thank you very much.
And thank you to you, Stephanie and Blake, and to all of you, whether you're an officer in either one of the Senates or a member of those organizations. I would just like to echo on behalf of all of us here, thank you. Thank you so much for all you've done. It has, there's just simply no way to accurately describe the amount of sacrifice and dedication that's been shown for our students and for each other. And I couldn't be more proud to be a part of this organization and a part of the humanity that we've shown to each other and to our students. It's truly been remarkable, and it's been one of the great pleasures of my professional career. So thank you to each of you, and Blake and Stephanie, thank you for your leadership. Speaking of leadership, it is time to hear from our leader, our president, Dr. Burke Glandon, who will walk us through the state of the college and the president's address for spring of 21. Burke.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Mark, and welcome everybody. I truly appreciate this opportunity to gather together and have a conversation with you all. In talking with many of you over the last several weeks, the prevailing theme was that we had survived 2020 and please bring on 2021. Well, please know that we at CWI did not just survive, we excelled. In talking, one of my advantages of being out in the community is that in talking to community members, mayors, business people, legislators, students, faculty, staff across the board, the community believes that we performed exceptionally well in 2020. And we really delivered to our students and community in ways that mattered the most to them. In a matter of 2 weeks last March, you all pivoted and successfully guaranteed students would graduate spring semester. Faculty and staff committed to providing summer school programs literally on a moment's notice, and you all dedicated yourselves to finding out how to deliver in multi-modes of instruction in an extremely accelerated format. We found at the college with staff and faculty working together that you found ways to protect faculty, staff, and students in this pandemic, an environment that none of us had experienced before. You changed classroom environments, and you made on-the-spot adjustments in your personal and professional lives to continue to provide high-quality educational experiences for our students. You did the impossible in an amazing fashion, and as high-quality, high-performing professionals, I'm so proud to be a part of this organization and its people. Thank you, and obviously, thank you is never enough for this kind of performance. We now begin 2021. Let me reassure you that CWI is in strong financial position. Last year, we proved to be able to deliver high quality education without laying anyone off, without cutting anyone's salaries, or implementing any furloughs, or eliminating any educational programs or services to our students. This year, we are looking to perform at that same level no matter what comes at us. Really, the environment economic forecast that we're looking at and setting in earnest our FY21 budget, enrollment and retention are always the keys for CWI. Denise will cover that a little bit later, but just know that the college leadership perspective is enrollment remains our key focus. Everything else is dependent on enrollment to one degree or another. It doesn't matter what comes next because we have proven that we can handle it with grace and dignity. with true professionalism. Today, we think it's outstanding that we have a virtual nursing lab. What about tomorrow? What might tomorrow actually bring? In talking to other colleges and universities, and literally at the national level, we may actually be looking in the next several years at a virtual online Idaho delivery system. Imagine Idaho is a movement that is trying to put together internet statewide access to all areas. Cybersecurity will develop in the next few years in ways that we cannot even imagine. Forensic science will explode. IRON, I-R-O-N. This is a new and new system that would provide connectivity to our business and education. This would provide students with opportunities to work in the business environment and with a virtual reality around it. Truly amazing advances in educational delivery are coming down the road, and we are looking forward to them. Virtual delivery systems on all fronts, not just in healthcare and not just in computer science. There'll be interactive robots, there'll be humanoid robots coming down. And quite frankly, CWI might be one of the first colleges to take a look at developing a virtual repair program for these types of technologies. Holograms providing whole new ways to present educational material. Avatar, don't even go there right now. That's way down the road even further. Yet to be invented processes that we cannot imagine. There are unlimited possibilities for us to embrace in our future. Be bold and engage in the future. And I believe that we at CWI will be on the forefront in making these realities happen. Literally this last year, we had a consulting group come in, and they worked with not only looking at our strategic plan and analyzing where we were and what we were doing, what our strengths and weaknesses were. This consulting firm actually worked with the board, and in December, we had a 2-day board retreat, taking a look at our strategic plan, where we might take it, how we might develop it in new ways, and 3 key opportunities came out of this endeavor. Advanced digital learning. And this brings up the issue that CWI does not have adequate physical capacity to support growth, and particularly in this particular area where we need dedicated space if we're truly going to advance digital learning and move into the new profession in the new world. The second one was maximizing employer partnerships. Note, this is where we can work with our local businesses and industries and advantage with 3P, public-private partnerships, to develop the kinds of physical facilities and the kinds of educational opportunities for our students to truly be valued in the workforce to come. The third one was to redefine student success outcomes. Note, this speaks and redefining our brand, our differentiating, as well as providing students with a space for networking, connecting, and support services, and accessing professional opportunities. If we're truly going to move the needle on inclusive excellence, affordable access, these new things need to be moved into our agenda for our new strategic plan coming down the road. It is really important that we embrace the kinds of changes, and we've proven in the past that CWI, more than any other school in the region, has been able to embrace the kinds of change and embrace the change with enthusiasm and acceptance that is extremely important to our future. I can't be prouder to be part of an organization that is literally advancing higher education in new and inventive ways. I want to thank you for your dedication to students, to your craft, and to your professionalism, and for your endurance and work ethic. This, yes, has been a challenging year. We are looking forward to 2021 and having an exciting new opportunities to serve our community and our students. As we turn the corner on 2020, I look forward, we look forward, and I know that the entire faculty, staff, and our students are counting on being bold and being energized. Yes, mighty and fearless. Thank you all for what you've done this past year in 2020. And let's all together look forward to what we can do in this coming year, 2021, with new and exciting opportunities. Thank you so much, and let's have a great year. Denise, I believe that we're moving over now to Denise Canada, our provost, who has an address for the instructional.
Thank you, President Glandon. And I think you guys can all start to see a theme emerging here. This is a very gratitude-filled group, and I'm going to just start and continue to magnify the comments that were stated earlier. 10 months ago, CWI had a choice. We could either create the worst event in our 11-year history, or we could proceed down the path of creating our finest hour. For the staff that don't work directly with instruction, we all determined that we were going to take a cue from the movie Apollo 13. And instead of allowing the event to dictate our outcome, we chose to create and determine that this was going to be our finest hour. So 10 months later, it just seemed appropriate to remind everybody of what we agreed to back in April and what motivated me extremely. And I've played that clip several times, but I know there are people on the call who haven't been a part of our faculty calls or our direct leadership meetings. So today I wanted to play that clip so everybody can get on board and see one of the things that helped motivate us and shape our outcome. Thank you. And thanks to all of you. I believe it's not even our finest hour, it's one of our finest hours, but there's going to be a lot more fine hours coming up. And to reiterate that again, I asked our CTL team if they wouldn't mind putting together a video to demonstrate to everybody all of the things that have occurred in spite of rushing to create 5 modalities back last spring and being scattered, having faculty, some on site, some off site, our students the same, many of our staff as well. And yet, when you watch this video, I hope this inspires you, as again, it did me in demonstrating, choosing to create our finest hour. This pandemic didn't hinder our performance one bit. Thank you. And I know that's a lot of information to throw at everybody, and it looks magical, right? Like, wow, we just did this on the drop of a dime. But the reality is, to create a lot of this, you notice the survey data that came in. I'd like to just point that out for a brief moment. 9,500 students responded. We had an 83% approval rating. That differs greatly from the results that we're seeing across the nation at some other institutions who opted to go off and create different modalities on the spur of the moment. And again, I just have to keep saying it. This is a testimony to all of our faculty and staff here at CWI and your persistence level. You know, when it got tough, we didn't lay down. We started marching and coming up with solutions and collaborating. And based on our student feedback, I really didn't know what to expect from our students. And so to see the results that came back on this survey, I would say an 83% is something to be extremely proud of given the circumstances that we find ourselves in. And so now I'm going to move on to spring 21. What does that look like? You can see by this chart that we are down at this particular snapshot of time. It was down -7%. I spoke with Patrick Tanner, our AVP, this morning, and he told me that we have made progress moving down from that -7. And we fully expect that. Now, -7, I'd rather be +7, but given everything that everybody here has had to deal with, our students especially, -7 is not a bad place to be. And in a recent Idaho education study, it was noted that 38% of the high school graduates in 2020 went on to higher education, leaving 62% who chose not to. Now, it didn't expound on the whys. I'm sure there's a variety of reasons, some who never expected to move on, some who just wanted to go to work, others who had other obligations. But I don't look at that as a negative. I look at that as an opportunity. We now know that there are 62% of Idaho graduates from the class of 2020 that are an opportunity for our one-stop and marketing teams to reach out to and start to explain to them the great story CWI is, and reach out and bring those students forward and get them enrolled at the College of Western Idaho. So -7, probably not the best metric, but once again, as I've looked across the nation, looking at the results of other higher education institutes, this is a place I'm proud to be at, and I have no doubt that by the fall of 21, we will be in the positive margins here. So again, I'm just going to keep saying the message. Thank you very much. It's phenomenal what we've managed to do here, and I do need to call out enrollment and student services and our one-stop individuals, because this didn't just happen. This was an intentional effort. Luis and Patrick and Chad and their teams got together and they created communication plans. They coordinated when they were communicating, the methodology in which they were communicating. They were quick to discover that texting was very efficient and effective. And so Luis worked to coordinate their communication so students weren't being bombarded by communication, even though we weren't all physically in the same facilities like we would have been 10 months ago. They still managed to maintain relationship with our student body. And I believe that was one of the reasons that last fall, we were down -3% in comparison and contrast to other institutions that were down as far as 22%. And now in the spring, we're down -7, as I've talked to other of my colleagues, and their rates continue to rise. And so I think we are very well positioned. We will recover, and we will begin focusing on our growth strategies and how do we make that up, and we are well on our way. So thanks again. All right, next slide, please. So now I go on to our, our summary of focus and what are some thoughts to ponder. Why are we here and what do we want to accomplish today? I don't want to state the obvious. However, I do want to just walk through some of the things that we plan to focus on in 21, based a lot off of lessons learned in 2020 and seeing how the landscape in education has been modified because of this pandemic. And so how does CWI get a footing and regroup and move forward? So we talk about sustainability, which is an odd thing to speak about in education, but it is predicted per the Chronicle of Higher Ed that 140 institutions will not survive the impacts of the pandemic, as well as the changes occurring across the landscape of higher education. Looking at CWI, we're very well positioned based off of our affordable offerings and the fact that we are affordable. And as I've shared last night at many faculty meetings, I'd much rather be in this position at where we are currently at our price point, then much higher, having to figure out how we deliver the same quality and the same type of programs with the same technology at a far reduced price. We continue to see funding toyed with. There's a lot that believe within the next 5 years, we will have to come up with different methodologies for funding many of our programs. And again, we are all over that. We're already thinking about that today. We're scanning the environment to look for, what's the next thing? How do we expand into untapped markets? What are some of the things that CWI can enhance currently? And some of the things I wanted to touch on, Dr. Glandon touched on briefly, but I just want to make sure that everybody at CWI is aware of some of the initiatives going on in the state. One of those is Online Idaho. And I'm fortunate to be on that steering committee. Online Idaho is focused on creating a storefront for all of the higher ed institutes in the state of Idaho, for students to be able to go out and basically shop and see what programs and what courses are available. We've started a soft launch next week for the spring semester. We're currently trying to secure the .edu domain for Online Idaho. So we expect to have that in place within the next couple of weeks. And then there'll be a landing page sent out, which I will forward to everybody so you can get a feel of what is that going to look like. The state went out on a bid process and partnered with a company called Quotely, who developed the storefront. So once again, we've had several people on our campus, financial aid, registrar, workforce development, working to provide information to help build that focus for our storefront. And initially, CWI, because of all of the other initiatives we have going on, we purposefully chose to launch our workforce development first, which is non-credit. We are the only institution launching Online Idaho with workforce development being in our forefront. They were more nimble and they had a little bit more bandwidth and fit the ability for us to go out and test the waters and learn from this launch. So when we put the rest of our courses out, hopefully in the fall, which will be general education, we will have worked through any snafus or problems that emerge through it, or things that we need to finesse before going 100% on Quotely. The other part is cybersecurity. Dr. Glandon touched on that as well. For the past year, the governor's focus has been on increasing the presence of cybersecurity and developing in partnership, as President Glandon stated, was part of what our consultants pointed out was an opportunity. So working with INL, the Idaho National Lab, we've partnered with them along with all of the other institutes in the state, and we're working at creating programs that will help meet the need of cybersecurity. And for CWI specifically, we have put together a Perkins project to help evaluate our current cyber program to ensure that we meet all of the objectives. We're going to embark on certification for that program, looking long range. What can cybersecurity do for us, and how can that become a mainstay? How can we build the brand of the College of Western Idaho in this arena and become known nationally, right? We don't have to remain just within the borders of Idaho. This is an opportunity using Online Idaho and a robust cybersecurity program to move forward. And a second phase of that will be workforce development, partnering internally. How do we take a credit program and partner with workforce development to help meet a very strong need in the workplace for ensuring, number one, cybersecurity knowledge, number two, ongoing certification for individuals who are in cybersecurity. So those are just a couple of things that we're very excited to be partnering with, and I think are going to help set the trajectory for the College of Western Idaho moving forward. And so we're just very excited to have the support of the state and to also be partnering with all of the other institutions. Now, the 2 years have a different role to play than the 4 years, but we will build programs that will allow students to go forward and go on to the 4-year institutions if they so choose, while our other ones will go directly to work. So this leads us to, you know, how are we going to accomplish this, right? It sounds really good to say all this stuff, but behind the scenes, it takes people, it takes process, it takes procedure, and it takes intention in order to achieve these goals. So we've been looking at what are the people externally saying. This is a message loud and clear coming to us from the state, from the state board, and it's students want affordability, they want flexibility, and they want support. And again, CWI addressed that last spring by creating 5 modalities that met the needs of our students and enabled many of them to continue on. And I know I'm citing the obvious, but I want everybody to understand it was not a small feat to create those modalities. And so what we're going to be doing is refining and revisiting. Those of you that meet with me regularly know what I like to say is we have to say it, do it, and prove it, always providing the evidence. So 2021 in instruction is going to be focused on many new guidelines emerging and requirements for higher education, as far as being able to not just say things, but demonstrate we're doing them, and then provide the evidence that we have indeed followed through. And I was very pleased this week at In-Service to sit in on several calls and see much of that training and updating is already underway based off of new requirements coming forth that we're going to have to meet in instruction. We're going to have to meet on the financial aid front, registration front, and the consumer focus that we have to focus on as well. CWI launched NC Sarah last July 1st. For those of you unfamiliar, it requires that we make our licensure requirements for programs that require it available to any student, potential or existing, and that we continually update those requirements to ensure that we're not providing degrees to students in Idaho that may go back to their state of residency and want to seek employment. And I'll just use an example, nursing is one of them, and find out that the state of Idaho's nursing requirements do not meet a state in which they reside. So that again has been another heavy lift that was undertaken last June, and we are continuing to work on it. And again, looking ahead, imagine a world where we at CWI are continually exploring. We're looking out into the future, watching the things that are coming and not waiting for them to happen. And as I talked earlier, there's going to be some changes in how we finance programs and possibly allocations coming from the state. I know Mark and Dr. Glandon can speak more to that. So how do we ensure that we're operating efficiently? And one of them is just some new guidelines that have come out from the Department of Education on programs. So we need to start examining, doing an audit internally of our student life cycle when they go through our programs. Are we maximizing and providing our students with the amount of aid that they're entitled to, so that they're not faced with hardship, and we're actually ensuring that our students are getting through our programs on time and that they have the resources in which to do it. And that came to light for us a lot these past 10 months as CWI provided scholarship opportunities to students who would come to us and say, you know, I'm having to make a choice between my job, going to school, or paying rent. And so CWI jumped and provided scholarship funds for students to help bridge that gap. And now we want to just take that a little further by going through our programs and ensuring that we've set up our programs and our students are going through at the right pace, and that they're actually getting all of the financial aid that they need. And that takes us back to NC Sarah. A second component of that is the consumer information. So there is a huge team that's been working behind the scenes that has gone through and identified some gaps that we have. And they're working currently on identifying which are the major gaps that we need to address. And then how do we do it and what's our timeline for getting these things accomplished. So if a student goes to our website, they look at a program, they immediately know if they're from out of state, that this program, if they graduate from the College of Western Idaho, that they can take that degree back to their state and become employed and it will work. And understanding the cost, as well as looking at placement for our students. Another project we're piloting this year in CTE first is being funded by Perkins, but it's working with a company called GradCast, so we can accurately report our graduates, where did they go after they left CWI, how many started, how many stopped out. And again, data will help us make informed decisions and help ensure the successful outcome that I know we all want. And to support that, IR has been wonderful in working with instruction to create specific reports to make it a little bit easier for all of us to have visibility into that data ahead of time, so we're not reacting. Instead, we're responding continually to that information. And very soon, within the next month or so, I'll be rolling that out. I would really like access for faculty, department chairs, and all our deans, so that at your will, you can go in and you can pull up your programs and you can go back and look historically at the enrollment and how many started, how many didn't complete. And we can go back then and formulate, start looking at why didn't they, and come up with solutions for that. So just a lot of exciting things moving us forward. I could go on for several hours, but I know for a lot of our faculty on this call, we covered a lot of this in the calls that were held last evening and in your in-service training. But in fairness to all the staff that aren't a part of that, I wanted to just reiterate some of these items for everybody. And I'm touching the surface. There's a lot more in depth to provide, and I'm happy to do that if you want to call, or I will be meeting with faculty in a couple weeks at a meeting where we can do some QA. But I just wanted to give you an image of some of the things that have been done, that we're planning to work on, and some of the things that we're just building the straw man behind that are critical to CWI being able to focus on growth instead of having to continually go back and create process, procedure, and compliance issues instead of being able to focus on program development. So next slide. So we all know as faculty, lecturing is probably the least effective method for individuals to retain information. So I've been speaking for a while. I hope what you'll take away from this message is the first video clip that we saw, which was, I believe we can set our course of action, and we do it by deciding what is it going to be. Is it going to be success or is it going to be failure? And when it's success, we're all working together as a team to create that success. The second is, being intentional, right? We have to be intentional. And I just love this from Alice in Wonderland. If you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. And that is very true. So I'm asking all of us to commit to speaking up, creating ideas, dreaming, and then purposefully setting the path that CWI is about to embark on. And I know that the executive operations team is working on this, our deans, our department chairs, and PC, purposefully setting out a strategy that helps CWI get to where they're at. We're 11 years old now, and in some minds it might say, here's where we can sit back, relax. CWI is hugely successful, fantastic programs, all these success measures. And this is where a lot of people would be tempted to sit back and say, we made it. Well, this is where I say we don't look behind, we just continually look forward and continue to push ourselves And CWI in 10 years, I have no doubt, will be everything that we define that it's going to be. And so I'm just asking everybody to dream big, because if we dream small, I guarantee that's where we will be. It was big dreams that created CWI 11 years ago, and now isn't the time to sit back. Now is the time to dream even bigger and determine what we're going to look like in the course of the next 10 years. So our future model for this year is, obviously we have to design the blueprint. What does that look like? And managing, what are the things that we can realistically work on to improve? And one of the items that we have defined for this year is going through all of our process, procedure, and compliance to ensure that we've identified any roadblocks that could come up unexpectedly and hinder our ability to proceed. And there are people working on this right now. And as soon as this is completed and identified, it will be shared, and people that need to be involved will be brought in so that we can correct some of these things. Earlier in my presentation, I said, say it, do it, prove it, right? And that involves continuous improvement. So although we jumped and created 5 modalities, there's an opportunity for us to go back and do some refinement in those modalities, ensure that they've met the rigor, which was one of the reasons we wanted to launch a survey. We wanted to get that feedback from students as well as faculty. What things can we do better and improve upon in these modalities to ensure that we've created high performing programs with academic integrity in multiple modalities. And then phase 3 is eventually the pandemic will end and there will be new careers that emerge from that pandemic. So I highly encourage everybody to be exploring and scanning the environment for things to come, not necessarily where we are today, but how can our programs adapt and merge and grow based off of what we've experienced in this pandemic. So what are some emerging careers that are going to come out as a result of this pandemic? Next slide. Next slide. I guess one important thing to ask ourselves and to contemplate on and marinate on is, what is the impact to CWI when it comes to curriculum development, our resources, our faculty time, and how does CWI, as I touched on earlier, gather the data to help us make informed decisions that will help us be far more efficient and, far more importantly, effective in what we're doing. And then I just ask you, what is the risk of doing nothing? If we just sit, which I know is not going to be an option for this group, especially because you've demonstrated that for the past 10 months, that isn't an option at CWI. So I just ask you to encourage people. This has been a heavy lift emotionally, mentally for everybody, our students, our staff, that some people may feel like sitting down and doing nothing right now. But I just ask you to think about, what does that risk look like, and how can we encourage everyone and each other to move forward and help continue to invest in CWI. Next. My next slide is something I wanted to end our presentation with. I don't know about you, but Dances with Wolves is one of my favorite movies. So what I wanted to explain was, in Dances with Wolves, there's a scene called the fire dance. And what the fire dance is in the Native American culture is a tossing out of the old and get rid of all the negative and to usher in the new. So I thought this was just, I'm a very visual person, so I wanted to give us an opportunity. Let's toss out 2020 and let's embrace 2021 and what's yet to come, and lets us define where CW is in the next 10 years. Okay, thank you.
Denise, thank you very much. I appreciate all you have put before us today. Lots to consume there. And I would encourage everyone, once our program here is completed and we get it published back to you, go back and review it. Provost Kanata has spent an incredible amount of time and energy and laying a path forward for us. And I do believe that we are on the right track. I love your visual with the fire dance. And I'm thinking that if and when conditions permit, maybe we ought to have a big old bonfire out somewhere and just move on. So if you'll indulge us, we're doing a little bit of a technical swap right now. That's one of the things that we do here at CWI quite well, is we adapt on the fly and as we're going. And I'm getting some reminders from Mark Westcott, who's helping to herd the technical demons around here, that at home, if you're having trouble getting a real solid connected stream, close everything else out. Close all your other tabs you might have open. You can, shut down your Twitter feed for a little while. Nothing's happening down at the State House. I've been keeping an eye on my phone. We're good. But that will help increase the ability and connectivity on your computer. We're also swapping screens here as we've got one machine that as soon as it starts to play video, it goes right to 100%. So we're swapping that over now. So just please be patient with us, and we'll continue to make those adjustments as we're going along here now. So I think we're good to go. We want to move into a portion of the program here where we update you on some of the advances and work that has been going on in respect for brand. A year ago, we talked with you all about coming out of our 10-year celebration. It was a time to refresh everything. And we certainly would draw upon what we've heard here from both President Glandon and Denise, that now is the time to move forward. We have not only lived through, but excelled during a very difficult time. And we have been, we've been very bold. And indeed, we have been fearless, and that's where we are headed. That's our next, that is our next point on our journey, and we'll get there collectively. And I think that we have certainly been the embodiment of a fearless mindset as examples to our students and to our community, certainly over the last 10 months. When you look and think about the word fearless, it's giving you strength in a time of need. It is that fight mechanism that fuels you from inside. It drives your dreams. It is a resolve that you will rise to the challenge, much like we saw the clip with Ed Harris as the flight commander in Apollo 13. And it really gets down to the heart and soul of who we are. And that is our faculty, our staff, and our students, and certainly our community. So we are defining fearless. We're defining bold, and we are ready to move forward. So in our commitment to our students, and we'd like to just give you a little video peek as to what the new brand and the new bold and fearless mindset is coming soon to you. Here you go.
College of Western Idaho was born from a community-wide passion to create opportunities and choices for affordable, accessible education. Today, students at CWI have a unique story of determination, motivation, and courage. And they know what it's like to face their fears and move boldly past them. Our faculty and staff have helped thousands of students to rise and explore new heights. Together, we are rising to meet the future. We are building our community. We are fearless. We are College of Western Idaho.
If that doesn't get you going, I'm not sure there's hope. So thank you to everyone involved. And I certainly want to thank our brand champions. We've had 30 plus folks across campus that they've really just jumped in and helped out. And they tolerated a lot of our ideas and shenanigans. And certainly with this announcement, I want to thank Allie Sweet in geology. She was just great. So we're defined, we're illustrated. We are ready to roll. So now what, right? That's a great question. We know you're excited as well. We want to start using the logo and the elements. So we know what Fearless is all about, and we are ready to roll. So let's just get you into a timeline here quickly as we're kind of moving past the top of the hour. So brand is our number one priority. We've done a lot of work to get ourselves to this point, but the new brand will kick off with the recruitment of our new students that will be coming in for this fall. That's when we will officially be completely transitioned over. Institution-wide, we will be transitioning between now, spring and summer, and then we expect to have a full everything all out launch by this fall. If you have questions, want to kind of see how the progress is going, you can check out the brand page on my CWI for updates. We will have a little further time for some Q&A. And if you'd like to just drop us a note, communications@cwi.edu. We certainly can, we'll field those, be happy to reach back out and go forward with any of those questions. So I think we've got some efforts here that we can help bring along with you, Mariah. We've got that, right, with a number of hashtags that you can use for those of you involved in social media, and we appreciate your positive intent there to help move our message forward. As you're taking a look at these, we want to just give you kind of a time check of where we're at. And we're going to take a little 5-minute break here. We'll pick up at 10:10 with our keynote speaker today. Provost Kanata did ask that I pass along to you one update that we failed to get in during her remarks. And there have been questions about what's going to happen with commencement this year. It will be virtual. We've made that decision. It is the safe venues, and even with the vaccine coming on, we have to make those decisions now to be able to move forward to do the planning and the execution of that. So certainly we can get more into that in our Q&A with the cabinet a little bit later, but we want to take a little bit of a break here. We've got 5 minutes. We'll be back here just after 10:10. So get up, grab your bacon, and we'll see you back here at 10:10. All right, and thank you, everyone. Hopefully you got a little break. You got up to stand up and get a little blood moving, and we'll get into some of our wellness activities here right after our guest speaker. But to introduce our guest speaker today with a very timely message that she has for us, I want to bring Provost Denise Kanata back to the forefront. Denise?
Thank you, Mark. And I am super excited today to have our guest speaker, Amelia Dodie Jones, who we were so happy to find because we realized that the events of the last 10 months have been extremely stressful on all of us. And we at CWI today wanted to bring in somebody that could talk to us about these stresses and provide us with some tools. So I'd like to introduce Amelia. She's an Idaho native. She earned her bachelor's degree from Seattle University and her master's degree in social work from Tulane University. Amelia is also a licensed clinical social worker at St. Luke's and primarily provides short-term treatments of anxiety, mood order adjustments, stress reactions, and substance use disorders. Her work involves adolescents and adults using cognitive behavioral therapy mindfulness, and motivational interviewing that helps to promote overall wellness. Amelia, on behalf of CWI, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. Go ahead and share my screen. All right, can you see that okay?
Yes.
Perfect. So thank you so much for having me this morning. It's great to have the opportunity to talk to y'all. I do say y'all a lot. I went to Tulane, lived in New Orleans for a decade. And I wanted to just start by saying thank you so much for what you do for our community. I have had the great pleasure of working with people from CWI in a variety of settings, including my practice, and the support that students and staff feel has definitely resonated with me. So thank you for continuing to do awesome work in a really difficult time. So today I'm gonna talk about wellness in COVID times. And a special thanks to some of my colleagues. Unsurprisingly, this has been a topic at a lot of institutions over the past few months. So I borrowed some of their work and then added to it and tried to make it individualized to what y'all were looking for today. So just a quick overview of the agenda. We're going to talk a little bit about managing change, the emotional impact of COVID-19 and some of the data that's started to come out, and then really spend time looking at what wellness looks like, what we can do to promote wellness in ourselves and others, warning signs for when we should be worried about ourselves or others. I don't know that I'm going to say anything particularly groundbreaking today, but I would invite you to use this time to take some breaths, take a little time to reflect on the past 10 months. I think so many of us have just been in survival mode that we don't always get the opportunity to pause. And so today I hope that if nothing else, you get a few moments to pause and hopefully come up with a plan by the end of some things that might be beneficial for you moving forward. So normal change management, both on the institutional side and the personal side, generally follow a pretty predictable stages. I opted to go with talking about the kind of the personal side of managing change. We have the status quo. We're used to what's going on. We know how to do our jobs. We have our daily routines down with our kids, and then change happens. And in normal circumstances, we go through this process of shock and denial and sadness and loss, and then start to come around to like, okay, I understand why this is happening. I can adapt, I can problem solve, I can give feedback about what's working, what's not working, and we make a commitment to move forward. And this is, a trajectory over time, and that time can look super different person to person. Sometimes people are super adaptable and excited about change, and sometimes people take a little bit longer, and neither is right or wrong. What's happened in COVID is we've been trying to manage change while moving forward. And we haven't had time to process or adjust in the way that we traditionally would, or that we expect change to happen. So we've had to move forward and adapt and change in the midst of ongoing change and uncertainty. which is quite frankly really distressing. It takes out predictability, it takes out time. And so managing change in COVID times has kind of rewritten how we do things. So a few things to think about in terms of managing change moving forward. There we go. First is just to acknowledge it, to take some time to process the loss that we've experienced, to identify what changes have happened and how it's impacted different areas of our life. Have we had change in how we do our work? I think most of us have gone remote, and some of us have done that in the past and some of us haven't. And recognizing your thoughts and feelings. There's no right or wrong way to feel about change, but taking the time to acknowledge what you're experiencing. The second thing that I think is really helpful in managing change is focusing on your thoughts and reactions. And I heard somebody mention positive intent a little bit earlier. And I think that can go a long way in managing change and managing how we're interacting with others. If we start with assuming positive intent, then when things aren't quite what we want or aren't going the way that we were expecting, or we don't quite understand a change, if we can give people more grace and compassion, including ourselves, which we'll talk about a little bit more, that can go a long way in just managing how we're dealing with things, how we're emotionally reacting to things. If we're assuming like, oh, this person is doing the best that they can in a really stressful situation, I'm going to give them a little bit of grace. That creates a totally different emotional reaction on our side, as opposed to like, I can't believe this. Like, what are they talking about? And so just those little shifts can make a big difference. Taking time to identify what's going well. Our brains are really great at identifying the things that aren't going well, the things that could be better. And so being really intentional about identifying, like, okay, this isn't what we were expecting, but here are some things that have gone okay, and that I'm happy about, or that I'm able to adjust to. And then the last thing is to be cautious, but not suspicious. And so, I think that ties back into positive intent in, we can be cautious about the changes and about being hopeful about the future, but not be suspicious that, there are more stressors and negative things coming around the bend. And then finally, looking for opportunities. So change is hard, often outside of our control. And so what is in our control is to look for opportunities, to set short-term goals, identify ways to use change for further innovation. I think, on the medical side of things, what we found is that a lot of people have been able to access care that maybe couldn't have before. And so that is a way that we can continue past COVID to use technology and innovation in new ways. And I think finally looking for surprises that have come out of these changes. I think sometimes things are unexpected. And so taking time to look at, we had more engagement in social media or in class online discussions or whatever it might be, taking time to look for those things. So I would just invite you to take a few moments to think about where you are in terms of managing change over the past 10 months. thinking about what your current engagement in the changes that have occurred are. Are you kind of still doing the Heisman, like, nope, not interested? Have you started to integrate things more? Have you taken time to process what's been happening? What emotions and thoughts are you experiencing? Do you feel stuck? Are there things that you're excited about? Are there things that you're struggling with? And then thinking about whether there is a small action you can take to move forward, whether that's, I'm going to take an extra, or I'm going to ask one of my colleagues to give me a extra tutorial on some technology that I'm really struggling with, or I'm going to set up virtual office hours in a different way, thinking about what might help you feel like you have some control over the change that's been happening. So hopefully you had a chance to think about something that might have come up for you, and something that you can do to move forward. I really encourage people to jot those things down. Because it makes it more real, and it gets it out of our head and into something more tangible. So I wanted to talk for a few minutes about cumulative stress. So I'm going to shift into kind of the mental impact, mental and emotional impact of COVID-19, starting with cumulative stress. Obviously need a drink of water. So we all have normal stressors, most of which maybe don't bother us that much. Driving to work, dropping off the kids, being late, having a technology issue that doesn't work. And generally we're able to kind of just move past those, and they generally don't stick with us throughout the day. And then we have incidental stress. And these two coincide to continue to raise kind of our overall stress level. What we've seen with COVID is that there hasn't been any subsiding of stress. It's just continued to escalate. And so where we see that incidental stress going back down to baseline, that hasn't been the case over the past 10 months. And often having significant incidental stress accumulates and impacts our ability to manage our day-to-day. So these are just some of the stressors that we've experienced in 2020, certainly not an exhaustive list. These stressors have affected different people differently. When we think about instability, some of us have been able to keep our employment, a lot of people haven't. We are lucky enough to live in Idaho where natural disasters aren't particularly concerning, but certainly my friends in New Orleans who experienced hurricanes this year had additional incidental stressors in the last year. What we found is that nearly 8 in 10 people say that coronavirus has been a significant source of stress in their life. That's huge. That's most of the people on this call have felt stress related to the pandemic. And that nearly 7 in 10 have experienced some increase in stress over the pandemic. Maybe not a significant source of stress, but still there. So what we know is that it's very widespread. And what we found is that Symptoms of mental health, suicidality, and substance use have increased significantly over the last year. So if we look at the same time frame in 2019, people experiencing anxiety symptoms has increased threefold. People experiencing depressive symptoms has increased fourfold. And 25% of people are reporting some sort of trauma reaction related to the COVID-19 pandemic. And I don't think that that is specifically to medical professionals. I think that a lot of people have felt significant distress and trauma symptoms related to the pandemic. Additionally, 2 times as many people have reported serious contemplation of suicide as opposed to the same time period in 2019. And 1 in 10 people are reporting that they've started or increased substance use as a result of COVID-19. What we've seen is this kind of phenomenon or branding of what's called or referred to as COVID fatigue. So it can be super complex. We can be angry and frustrated and anxious and sad and lonely. And we also might have some positive emotions in there. And it's really been accelerated by the loss of activities and social relationships. What we know is that a lot of our normal coping skills have been unavailable. So if we normally go to the gym and we can't, or we have a weekly happy hour with friends and we can't, what has replaced those coping skills often are unhealthy coping skills. So might be alcohol or substance use, might be increased risk or risky behaviors, might be a decrease in activities, going home and sitting on the couch and watching TV for 4 hours instead of doing the activities that we maybe normally would do. And these kind of ongoing changing negative emotions alter how we respond to things, alter our physical wellness, our reactions to things, and how we're evaluating the world overall. So I would like people to just, as I read through these signs and symptoms of distress, kind of think about like, I wonder if any of these things are true for me. And this is certainly not an exhaustive list. So physical symptoms of distress might be being tired, exhausted, poor sleep. On the alternative, it might be that we're sleeping more than normal. There is such a thing as getting too much sleep. Nightmares, appetite problems, either up or down, headaches, physical pain. I think, I can't stress enough the connection between how we are doing emotionally and our physical symptoms. And so being conscious of what physical symptoms am I experiencing can help us see those as early warning signs. So for me, if I'm starting to get stressed, before I know it intellectually or emotionally, my neck starts hurting. And so then I can pause, be like, wait a minute, what's going on here? What do I need to adjust? And so being really in tune to what's going on with us physically can help often mitigate some of the other symptoms. Some cognitive signs and symptoms of distress: ruminating thoughts, poor attention, concentration, not being able to get work done, confusion, forgetfulness, going down the path of what ifs. What if this happened? What if that happened? What if this, like all the worst case scenarios, definitely a sign of distress. Some behavioral signs of distress: decreased libido, socially withdrawing. I think unfortunately the term social distance has really resonated in a negative way with people. And so really trying to reframe that to physical distance and still engaging socially in new ways. And we'll talk more about that in a bit. Avoiding talking about COVID or other stressors. I think often we can get into the mindset of, well, other people have it worse, or there's this big global pandemic, and so I'm not going to talk about the thing that happened at work today that really hurt my feelings or upset me or I felt frustrated with. That's a sign that maybe things are not going the way that we would hope. And then also substance use. Emotional signs of distress, irritability, anger, sadness, fear of losing control, attempts to maintain control. Often when there's so many things that we cannot do anything about, we focus in on the things we do have control over, and sometimes that can become problematic. And then apathy, throwing up our hands. And then finally, spiritual questioning beliefs, becoming hyper-religious, if that's, either one of those are different from your norm. And that's what I would say about all of these symptoms is this different from your norm? Feeling lack of trust in people, abandoned, etc. So what makes something stressful or traumatic? There's a lot of commonality on the impact of COVID on mental health, but it still looks different person to person. Everyone globally right now is experiencing an abnormal event. And often some of the signs of distress are to be expected. We can't expect that we're always going to be happy, shiny people when there are serious abnormal events going on in the world around us. And so a couple things to look for in terms of atypical symptoms. And so thinking about, like, is this distress pushing over further than it being a normal reaction? Symptoms continue to increase without any relief. They start to interfere with daily functioning. So, maybe we aren't showering as often as we normally would, or we're not eating, or we are calling out sick to work, and not able to do the things that we normally do. And then often the other thing that we look for is there a delay between the onset of symptoms and the event? So, in COVID, it's a little bit different because there's kind of this ongoing situation or event, but often, if we see that, things are generally fine and then they're not, after a period of time, particularly as we start to see some of these stressors shift, that would be a warning sign. So I wanted to spend a couple minutes talking about suicidality for a couple reasons. One, we know that people contemplating suicide has doubled over the past year. And it's one of the leading causes of death in the United States. Currently, the statistic is that one life is lost every 12 minutes in the US. Idaho is the sixth highest suicide rate, has the sixth highest suicide rate in the nation. It's something that we all need to increase our awareness of so that we can get people or ourselves the help that is needed. I wanted to just point out a couple particular risk factors. Male gender, being over 75, veterans, and the LGBTQ plus communities are particularly at risk for completed suicides. And so if you're worried about somebody, or if you fall into one of those categories, know that that increases risk. So these are the warning signs. Is path warm is the acronym. So ideation, threatened or communicated, substance use, purposelessness, not feeling a reason for living, anxiety, feeling trapped, hopeless, withdrawal, anger, recklessness, and dramatic mood changes. So these are, is path warm are things to keep in mind when we're thinking about suicide warning signs. So often people hesitate to ask for help and to offer help for a lot of reasons. Shame, stigma, being unsure about what to do, saying the right thing, worried that if they ask, it'll put the idea in somebody's head. Know that that is not a thing. That is a total myth. Asking somebody if they're thinking about suicide does not increase their risk or put the idea into their head. So here are a couple things that are helpful. Show that you care, ask, and get help. And know that you're not alone on either side, as somebody who is helping or as somebody who is struggling. A couple protective factors that I think are really important to point out is people having coping skills and communication skills, feeling a purpose or value in life, access to care, spirituality, supports, family, friends, etc., and having a safe environment without lethal means. So this is a list of resources. I put together a PDF that I think will be shared, including these resources. Always, if there is a lethal means related to the plan, that's always a 911 call. So if there's a gun, if there are medications, if somebody's already started an attempt, always a 911 call. If not, suicide hotlines are amazing. I really can't say enough about the Idaho Suicide Prevention Hotline. They are amazing people. They offer a lot of resources and really help guide people to where they need to be. And you don't have to be suicidal to call. They do general support for distress. And if you're a support person who's like, I don't know what to do, call them. They will help you kind of navigate that. And they text now, which is amazing. And then the other thing I just wanted to mention is that most mental health care is provided in primary and urgent care settings. Our access to psychiatry is super limited. So I want you to just take a moment to kind of read through these questions, think about where you're at. Are there signs of distress that you're experiencing? I would guess for most people, there's some sort of distress. We are living in abnormal times right now, and having distress related to that is totally normal. And so now we're going to talk about, what do we do if we're not where we want to be? If we're feeling distress, are there ways that we can frame things differently to promote overall wellness? So the first thing I want to talk about is resilience, which is the ability to recover from or adjust easily to misfortune or change. Research shows that those who possess resilience manage adversity and threat better. So specifically adaptability, optimism, and psychological flexibility. So in terms of building resilience, some of the things that we think about are caring for the self. So we're going to talk about self-care in a few minutes. Regaining balance. So if we notice we're spending a lot of time doing particular things or thinking about particular things, like, are there ways that we can shift that so that we are more holistically caring or balancing all of the demands in our life? Enjoying work. And we're going to talk about some ways to maybe reconnect with that. Staying connected to others, building compassion for ourselves and for others. We're generally really good at caring about other people and understanding where they're coming from and wanting them to have good quality of life. We generally are super hard on ourselves. And so spending some time looking for ways we can be compassionate to ourselves is really impactful. A couple other things to think about in terms of building resilience, accepting that change is part of living, looking for opportunities for self-discovery, maintaining a hopeful outlook, which I think has been challenged this year, and trying to keep things in perspective. The other thing to think about is just general stress reduction, things that we can integrate into our daily life that help manage stress overall. So problem solving, relaxation, communication, time management, helpful thinking patterns, and healthy lifestyle. So Russ Harris started as a medical practitioner and then transitioned to being a therapist and coach. He's the author of The Happiness Trap, which I think is super accessible to most people, and based in acceptance and commitment therapy. So he came up with this Face COVID framework. And to give you a break from listening to me, I'm going to go ahead and play his, play his version of, or explanation of what facing COVID is.
When we face a crisis of any sort, fear and anxiety are inevitable. They are normal, natural responses to any challenging situation infused with danger and uncertainty. Face COVID is a set of practical steps for dealing with such situations. F is for focus on what's in your control. You can't control what happens in the future. You can't control coronavirus itself or the world economy or what other people do, and you can't magically control your thoughts and feelings. Fear, anxiety, and worry are inevitable. But you can control what you do here and now, so let's focus on that. A is for acknowledge your thoughts and feelings. Silently and kindly acknowledge whatever is showing up inside you, thoughts, feelings, emotions, memories, sensations, urges. With curiosity, notice what's going on in your inner world. You might say to yourself, I'm noticing feelings of anxiety, or I'm having thoughts about getting sick, or I'm having feelings of loneliness. And as you continue acknowledging your thoughts and feelings, bring in the next step, which is C, come back into your body. Find your own way of connecting with your physical body. For example, you might try slowly pressing your feet hard into the floor, or slowly pressing your fingertips together, slowly stretching your arms or your neck, or shrugging your shoulders, or slowly breathing. And as you acknowledge your thoughts and feelings and come back into your body, you then move to E, which is for engage in what you're doing. Get a sense of where you are here and now and refocus your attention on the activity at hand. Notice 5 things you can see, 5 things you can hear. Notice what you can touch and taste and smell. Notice what you are doing and give your full attention to that activity. And then C is for committed action. This means effective action guided by your core values. Action you take because it's important to you, even if it brings up difficult thoughts and feelings. Of course, this includes following official guidelines on what to do during this crisis. But in addition, ask yourself regularly, what can I do right now, no matter how small it may be, that improves life for myself or others I live with or people in my community? And whatever the answer is, do it and engage in it fully. O is for opening up. This means making room for difficult feelings and being kind to yourself. As this crisis unfolds, we'll all feel fear, anxiety, anger, sadness, guilt, loneliness, and so on. We can't stop these painful feelings from arising, but we can open up and make room for them. Acknowledge they are normal, allow them to be there even though they hurt, and treat ourselves kindly. Consider what are kind words you can say to yourself and kind things you can do for yourself to help you cope with this suffering. V is for values. Committed action should be guided by your core values. What do you want to stand for in the face of this crisis? What sort of person do you want to be as you go through this? How do you want to treat yourself and others? Your values might include love, respect, humor, patience, courage, honesty, caring, openness, kindness, compassion, or numerous others. Look for ways to sprinkle your values into your day and let them guide and motivate your actions. I is for identify resources. Identify resources for help, assistance, support, and advice. This includes friends, family, neighbors, health professionals, and emergency services. Make sure you know the emergency helpline phone numbers, including those for psychological help if required. D is for disinfect and distance. Remember to disinfect regularly and practice physical distancing for the greater good of your community. Please run through the steps of Face COVID as often as you can for the benefit of yourself, your loved ones, and all the people in your community.
Okay. So I think that that's a great framework to revisit when we start to feel like things are not where we want them to be. So now we're going to shift and talk about self-care for a few minutes. And I really like this quote. Most big transformations come about from hundreds of tiny, almost imperceptible steps we take along the way. I think often, particularly in the new year, we come up with these grand, like, I'm going to lose 20 pounds, or I'm going to exercise every day, or I'm going to stop eating fast food. And those big changes are great. And if you can maintain them, wonderful. What we often find is that taking small steps helps us get to where we want to be and helps us maintain those things. And so I want everybody to just take a few minutes to think about these self-care domains. The reason that I think it's helpful to break things down into domains is that wellness is difficult and can be overwhelming. And so what can be helpful is to look at these things and say, you know what, I think right now what I really need is to pay attention to my self-care related to social interactions, or related to how I'm feeling emotionally, or, you know, the top two things that I want to focus on are X and Y, so that it becomes more manageable. I love self-care and wellness plans. I think they're incredibly useful in actually making change. When we write things down and when we share it with somebody else, it helps it become real. So when we think about creating a self-care or wellness plan, here are some things to think about. Concrete, measurable goals, achievable steps, daily activities, warning signs, triggers, or barriers. So if you know that when you're getting stressed out, your neck hurts, that's a warning sign. If you know that getting home late from work is a barrier to doing the things that you put on your plan, acknowledge that and come up with a plan. Positive self-statements. So are there things that we can reframe that maybe we tell ourselves that aren't particularly true or helpful or useful or important? Can we reframe some of those negative self-talk things into something more positive? Doesn't have to be like, I'm an amazing human being. Not that I don't think that's true. I think that's true for everyone. But sometimes, making it too amazing makes it feel disingenuous. And so we can say positive things about ourselves without going overboard and making it no longer useful. And then also including supports in your plan. So these are just some examples of self-care and wellness plans that I have utilized in the past. Again, these are in a PDF. You are welcome to use, change, take what is useful to you, leave the rest. But what I wanted to show is that there's no right way to come up with a plan or to document a plan. It really is about what works best for you. So I wanted to just talk about some tips and strategies for addressing some of these self-care domains. Some of them seem super obvious, but often those things are the things that kind of get left. So drinking water, getting rest, going to medical appointments. I think that in the past 10 months, a lot of us have pushed off doctor, dentist, eye doctor. So trying to get back into the habit of doing things preventatively, letting go of perfection, engage in perspective taking. So thinking about some of the negative or anxious thoughts that are running through your head. Is there a way that those can be reframed? Creating a routine, doing enjoyable things, keeping a log. Often if we can hold ourselves accountable, it's helpful. And then we can look back on it and be like, whoa, I walked the past 15 days. That was amazing. Taking breaks from technology and news. I think I really can't state the importance of that enough. Maybe you check the news for 30 minutes a day. Please don't do it before bed. But setting some boundaries around that, I think, is really important. And then opportunities for action. I think what people have experienced over the past 10 months is a lot of loss in control and feeling helpless. And so look for things that we can do. We know there's a blood shortage. Most of us can give blood. We can write to leaders. We can find causes that are important to us and get involved or donate. And so, no, it may not change everything that's happening, but it does help to feel like we're taking a step. Good self-care and stress management, positive self-talk, laughing, finding a mantra that is helpful. I was actually just talking to a coworker about being able to say I did my best today. I got done everything that I got done, and that's enough for me. Being mindful or prayerful, spending time in nature, staying connected with people, being creative in what that looks like now, asking for help, and then professionally, reconnecting with why we're doing the work that we're doing. what are the things that brought us to this work in the first place? And also, I think developing transitions, particularly for people working from home, it's easy for like home and work life to just totally bleed together. And so being intentional about time and space and transitioning from one area to another. One of the ways that I think is really useful in making change is 30-day challenges. I think that there's some 21-day challenges going on at CWI right now, which is amazing. So here are some other ideas of things that you might think about doing. It's a good way to start creating a new habit that doesn't feel overwhelming. This isn't something you may decide after 30 days or 21 days that you may do it every other day, or you may continue to do it every day, but it doesn't have to be as overwhelming when it's just taking these small little steps. And then finally, just some information on resources. CWI has an EAP program. It's free counseling. I think everybody benefits from counseling, so check that out. Psychology Today is a great tool to, you can define like what insurance you have, what kind of practitioner you want, where you want them to be located, etc. Some mindfulness apps. I love mindfulness. I think it's super beneficial. It's hard to get started. So know that if you haven't practiced mindfulness, give it a couple chances. But there are some apps that I think are lovely. Some sleep tools and resources if that's something that's challenging, physical activity, and then a couple for those of us who like to continue to learn, which I would guess is most people on this call, some Coursera free courses that I think are wonderful. So again, this stuff that I think is really important is in a PDF. If you have questions, feel free to reach out to me anytime. And thank you again for allowing me to spend some time with you this morning.
Thank you, Amelia. We do have a couple of questions here real quick right before you leave. If you've got just a couple of minutes, I'd like to handle those. And just a reminder to everyone on the call that general questions, I know Christy had one about branding. We're going to get to that during the PC Q&A that's coming up. Gordon had a question about the high rate of suicide here in Idaho and some of the reasons behind that. And I think that's probably, days of discussion that could take place on that, but it's certainly something that I think we all can be very mindful of and reach out and be able to be mindful of those around us. I want to get to Kelly's question because I think that's really relevant for a lot of us. What can we do? Her question is, what are the actions you can take as a manager to help lower stress? But I think that applies for all of us, whether we're a manager or in a different role. You don't have to be in a supervisory role. What can we be doing that way?
In terms of supporting, sorry, I actually didn't see the chat, so my apologies. In terms of supporting ourselves as managers or supporting our staff?
Both, I would say. The question was primarily what can we as managers do to support our staff and help make life less stressful. But I would also say, is there a component of peer-to-peer effort that can address reduction of stress?
Yeah, absolutely. So a couple things that come to mind. One is modeling. I think about my managers and supervisors in the past. If I'm getting emails at 10 o'clock at night, then I think that that's the expectation for me as an employee. And so being mindful of those things. And, some of us work better at night. So saying that to your staff, like, I don't want you on your email at 10 o'clock at night if that's not when you're working. And so laying out those expectations really clearly and having conversations about that, I think can mitigate a lot of stress because we all kind of internalize what certain behaviors and communications mean. And then giving people space to just, identify, like, these are the things that are going on. Maybe as a team doing a wellness plan or a challenge together, I think can be really helpful in promoting stress reduction and overall wellness as a team.
Great, thank you. Just a reminder to everyone, and it was in the chat side of this, a couple of folks had posted the link to the YouTube presentation by Russ Harris. We'll have that link and a copy of the technology happens. It's all good. But we'll have a link to that YouTube video by Russ Harris, and then also we'll send out the presentation slides. We'll have that in Burt's Alerts on Friday. So be looking for that information, as you do every Friday, for that pertinent information that comes in Burt's Alerts. Amelia, thank you so much for being with us here today. We really appreciate your time and your efforts in trying to keep us as mentally healthy as we possibly can during this. Much appreciated. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. Y'all have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. Amelia mentioned that some of the wellness challenges that are ongoing that our culture and employee engagement committees been undertaking, and what a great effort there. We have a series of these 21-day challenges, and as mentioned, the goal is to help the overall health and wellness of each of us. We've had walking the fall, we've had mindfulness and yoga, and good night with sleep, and emphasis on sleep, and then hydration. We've been having an average of around 91 people participating every month, and over 60 prizes have already been awarded. So get in, participate. This is something that is here to help us, and we appreciate the efforts by everybody there in that on that committee so far. And yeah, just a reminder, we will have the grand prize drawing in May. So look forward to that, as has been our mantra this morning. Good things are coming. So if you have questions, of course, first of all, with everything, look to Burt's Alerts, and then you can check out the CEAS page on my CWI, and then you can certainly email. All right, 5-minute break here. I'm doing a time check. I've got 11:05 here on my machine. The sound of bacon lets us know that we have 5 minutes. At 11:10, we will reconvene, and it will be your time with your President's Cabinet. Live question and answer session, and let's have a great discussion. We're looking forward to that. So I'll see you back here at 11:10. All right, the clock is showing the time. Let's come back into session here. We've got the remainder of our time here today we want to spend with a question and answer, as has been our tradition over the last couple of full college gatherings, to have an open discussion with the members of your President's Cabinet. So President Glandon and the rest of the Cabinet members, I would invite you to open your cameras back on so that we can see your bright and smiley and shiny faces. And we will get started. Just a reminder to those of you on the other side of this call, the Q&A function is how you'll get your questions in, and we as panelists will see those questions, and then once we get that question addressed, then we mark it as such, and then everybody will be able to see what the text of the question was too. But Christy Gilchrist had asked one back during the branding presentation, and so I want to jump into that one first, and it was centered around the budget that would be necessary and what departments should be planning for as part of costs associated with the rebranding. And it gives me an opportunity to formally introduce Carl Speaker, our new Vice President for Finance, who's joined our team. Carl is actually physically here with us now. He comes from Colorado, and most recently as the Vice President for Finance for Colorado State University in Pueblo. We're thrilled that he's joining us here. Carl, if you want to take the microphone over and just say hello to everyone here and to Team Otter, and then maybe just get in a little bit to how we'll approach the budgetary side of rebranding as we go forward into fiscal 22.
You're muted.
Can y'all hear me?
Carl, you're
We got you there,
muted.
Carl. Thank you. Yeah, I'm
There
not
you
wearing
go.
my muted t-shirt today, so I can't just show you my t-shirt. So we had to kind of reach out there.
Well, thank you again for the kind introduction, Mark. And before I get into the specifics of the question, I just wanted to let everybody know on the campus just how truly honored I am to be affiliated with CWI. CWI has got just such a tremendous group of dedicated professionals who are committed to the academic and educational mission of the college, and also to be a part of the business office. The business office is truly committed to sound business practices that support the mission of the college. And I think it goes without saying that we are well positioned in large part because of that professionalism and the strategic leadership of President Glandon and the other PC members. Well, with respect to this specific question, I believe that the goal here is not to burden the specific units across the campus regarding the branding and the costs of branding. I think that the largest costs are going to be associated with signage and coming out of facilities, and we as a PC are going to be planning and budgeting for those expenses centrally. I think the more localized impacts will be things like letterhead and cards and those sorts of things. And I think the expectation is that the units will be expected to bear those costs out of their respective operating budgets. But really, as those supplies are depleted and new orders are placed, that the new orders can be placed with the new color scheme and the new logos.
Great, Carl. Thank you. Mariah, let's take it back to what we affectionately call the Brady Bunch view, because I want to get Ryan in here. The other member of our cabinet now is Ryan Herring, who is filling in that role, representing HR since little replacement goes on. So Ryan, thank you, A, for stepping up and filling that role, and B, joining us here on stand in line to receive, as far as prioritization, with the vaccine. So Ryan, welcome, and we're going to throw you right in the middle of it. Here you go.
No, thank you. Even for an interim period of time. So great question. A state level on COVID-19. Right now, there's not a lot of clear information as to when we can anticipate the vaccine. What I can say is we do staff, but we haven't areas that are in clinicals, they're in those medical offices, they likely do hit that priority schedule. And I've already put out a couple emails and some calls to the Department of Health and Welfare and some other groups to figure out what we can do at CWI to see about getting our students and others in through those vaccinations.
Very good. I would just also encourage people, if you're in an at-risk category, you probably know now after 10 months whether or not you are. If you have history of heart disease in your family. If you are a type 2 diabetic, you're going to be in that category. Work with your doctor, with your regular medical professional to get on a list through that. Because the list, as it sounds, is still being formulated in terms of prioritization for us in education, but you may be able to get in and get a vaccination sooner through some of those delineating factors. Do have a question here that I got take them any way I get them. Curious about apparel with the new logo and the new look. Can I run out to Walmart tomorrow and get my new T-shirt and sweats and be able to buy those soon? This is all part of the rollout. There's a lot of intricacy to work through in terms of, and we'll be working with Jason in the bookstore to get apparel items in there just as soon as we can. It certainly is a priority for us, and we'd like to be able to expand all the offerings that we possibly can. You know, this is, as we've detailed, is really our first really new look. So stay posted. Another chance for me to pump Bert's alerts, right? And read that every Friday, and we'll keep you updated just as best as we can. So Joy has a question here. What's the status of conversations and training around anti-racism and some of the social issues that we had undertaken during, gosh, I'm trying to think back now if it was early 20 or when it was, but it was a few months back. I'll start, and then maybe Denise or Bert, you want to jump in, but the direction that we had received from trustees was that this needs to be a very purposeful and professional approach, that let's take a look at that with the changeover in membership of the board. They're now reconstituting some of their assignments and how they'd like to help and be involved with that and have some guidance that way. So it certainly has not been shelved, but it's just being retooled, I think is probably a fair statement. Denise or Bert?
To Ryan, Vice President Talley was managing that previously and working to help reestablish a new board or new committee to work on this process. So Ryan, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I think I might have.
Well, no, let me know. Ryan, you can jump in here right away too. Ryan and I, quite frankly, we have a committee in place. Ryan is actively working with that committee, and there is a work group. The board has asked us to develop a work group, and Ryan, correct me for the right language. I am going to be taking the leadership in terms of making sure that we get this in place and we work with the community members. The work group will be a work group. It will not be a decision-making group. It'll be a recommending group. It'll work with our on-campus inclusiveness committee that is already in place. It'll be an advocate for it. We, as the chairman, strategic and work through this process diligently. We are in process, and I am in the process with the board chair and Ryan in terms of coalescing this new work group that the board is directed, and will work with the committee over the next several weeks in terms of putting a new direction together for inclusive excellence and moving forward. Ryan, you might want to put some, you've had a couple other meetings since then with, I think, Max and a couple other, or maybe not, maybe you haven't had it yet, but I know you're going in that direction. So I defer to Ryan on some of the specific implementation.
Yeah, thanks, Bert. Spot on. So at this point, I haven't had a chance to meet with the Inclusive Excellence Committee. That's on the docket once we get through the busy week we have scheduled for us. But really, from our conversation with Chair Lenti, we're looking at this work group to give or take potentially longer, pulling in participants from across the community, both in only that way we can really have a good grasp of, you know, where our gaps may be, so that we can take that very prescriptive, strategic approach to how to improve inclusion on our campuses.
Thank you, Ryan. Bert, Denise, appreciate that. I'm going to jump back into the Q&A here and try to pick off a couple of these. Christy Gilchrist has a question about what are the cabinet's thoughts about returning to work. I think generally speaking, and then maybe Craig, I'll swing over to you as the operations VP, and you can kind of evaluating every day as the conditions change. And I would see that is probably the approach for the foreseeable future as conditions permit. Now, Craig, I don't want to supersede you here, but when the boss is raising his finger, he gets to go first, and then he'll throw it to you.
No, I'll give it to Mark I'll give it to Craig right away. But Mark, I just want clarification. Christy Gilchrist asked about returning to work. I don't know that we ever left work. We're still working. So it's just that we're working remotely.
And just for the record, she's driving every day. She never stops work, but in here.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. Let's just think about this high level for a minute. First of all, our intent is to come back to work. You know, there's been a lot of questions about, you know, is this our new norm? Are we going to continue to work remotely? We're all hearing about some businesses that are shifting gears and taking this on as more of a ongoing norm. And Cabinet has talked about it, and that's not where we want to go. We are a public institution. We serve the community. We serve students, and we feel compelled to be face-to-face at some point in time. And that's where the core question lies. When does that point occur? And right now, we don't know exactly when that's going to be. I think optimistically, we'd like to think in and around the June timeframe. You know, if you just think about getting through the spring semester and maybe getting to a different location and pattern, all subject to what goes on with COVID. You know, we've had a lot of dialogue here about vaccinations and what's going to be the effective rate of that. What are we going to see as we may see diminishing cases occurring? We just can't read the crystal ball that well yet. And work much the way we had. Now, will some people continue to work remote? Probably. And we have a policy related to that. And so we'll take those things on a case-by-case basis. But, you know, I know, Denise, you've had some conversations internally with the instructional team, and I think you've shared some of your thoughts back with Cabinet about somewhere around the June timeframe would be, quote, hopeful. But again, we're not ready to say, hey, this is the day and this is exactly what it's going to look like. So stay the course. Spring is you know, underway. I think the good news is we've settled in. We know what it's like. We know we can be effective. And as soon as we start to see some trends or shifts that give us a little bit clearer read, we'll communicate it. Our intent is not going to be to suddenly, in the course of a Friday afternoon, say, "Hey, everybody back on Monday." We won't do that to ourselves, and to everybody else. So, I don't know if anybody else has other input.
Right, and I think Luis sent on a chat. Some of those actually never really left except for a brief period of time, is what he stated. We phased out very quickly in March when it hit. I think whatever we do, as Craig just brought up, it won't be we're back June 1st. It will be a phasing in and a phasing out of everything we do. And I think Christy, more than anybody, I know that Christy, for example, in the community, we've actually started having face-to-face meetings with various groups in the community, which were in some of the fall. But I even met with legislators yesterday face-to-face. I think that our operational aspect is we'll start phasing back in. And I know that Denise has had conversations with the instructional units about looking at June, and maybe we've had some instructional people that have been delivering face-to-face instruction, particularly in the career and technical and the healthcare areas all along. So we will continue to gradually move as the trends move, if that's fair, Craig.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you to you both. Speaking of Luis, he had a separate question, and appreciate that, Luis, asking about whether or not HR or another appropriate contact could provide a letter, an official letter on CWI letterhead for in-person folks that would help raise their classification to a category 3 as essential. Ryan, you want to tackle that, and that may be something that we may have to bring back to the COVID team and work through. But let's try to touch on that, and then Max, I'm getting to your question next. Hang on.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. That's the biggest question mark that I've had in my mind as it relates to the vaccination priority is, you know, what is meeting that criteria for essential workers. You know, and until I get a little bit clear information back on that, I wouldn't be in a position to really say, yeah, we can provide this letter. I know what my goal and what I'm exploring is once we're able to identify when, you know, different subsets of employees or students are eligible for vaccination, my goal is to explore whether or not there's a way that we can actually bring those vaccination clinics on campus in some fashion. That way it's convenient and easy for those individuals. But, you know, as it stands right now, I haven't received some of that clarification.
President Glandon.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. I am actually on the St. Luke's Community Advisory Committee in Nampa, and that is an agenda item taking to them is to have them, the same thing with St. Al's. I've had contact with St. Al's to have them acknowledge that we, those of us in higher ed that are offering face-to-face classes in particular, need to be moved up on that list. Any faculty member or staff member that's got face-to-face on an ongoing basis as part of their job, we're trying to get that acknowledged and moved up on that advisory committee. Hopefully when we meet next week, I'll have some kind of answer on that. Ryan, you're absolutely right. They've kind of stuck with the Southwest Health District or the Central Health District's overall bureaucratic approach to it. Unless it used to be 75 or older. Actually, it's dropped down at 65 and older. You're in that second group now, which affects some of our staff and faculty as well. I'm hopeful that in the next week, and I think somebody even from the nursing staff had mentioned that by January 20th or something, this would open back up. I'm hoping we have clarification in the next week to 10 days.
Very good. One more COVID related. But Kay had a question about whether or not we as a college will ask any of you to report if you have received the vaccine. I'm not sure how that works in through HIPAA and some of those layers, Ryan. And I'm seeing that you're still muted, so you're probably not wanting to jump right into this, but that's probably a topic, whether that's a self-report or if we even want to go down that road. Thoughts there?
Yeah, there are a couple of different laws that come into play when we're talking about vaccination. One of those, you know, weekly, bi-weekly calls I mentioned that I attend earlier today during the Q&A is actually with all of the HR and leadership statewide for state entities. Right now, the advice from the attorney generals is, you know, unless there is a bona fide job reason where they need to have the vaccination, not to mandate, not to ask for verification. You know, we haven't necessarily laid down the perfect plans on what that's going to look like at CWI, but I'd assume we'll follow in suit with what the state is doing. I will also note, you know, the hospitals themselves have come out and said they're not requiring vaccinations necessarily for all employees. This is individuals just because of the different contexts that play into it, whether it's religion or health or other factors.
All right, very good, Max. I've been promising you to get to yours. Max had asked a question a while back early on in here, and it's a topic that we need to get to. I think it's still very much in a top of all of our mind and awareness, what the events from the Capitol from a week ago today. And let's talk about here locally at CWI and going forward. 19th, but Max's question centers on what are our plans to ensure a safe environment, not only for our students, but for our faculty and our staff and anybody who happens to be on our campus. And let's talk about one of the very difficult things in our country's history and in our current modern time, which is this level of angst and unrest and just the unbelievable events that took place a week ago. Bert, if you want to start, or then Craig with your oversight of facilities. I know we've had conversations with Jeff Flynn, who oversees security, but let's jump into this topic about the measures that we're taking to ensure the safety of all of our CWI family.
Well, Craig, Mark, thank you. I just met with some legislators down at the Capitol yesterday. I know that they're very American what's happening now, and in our history, this is just stunning, shocking and all. I would work towards, and I would hope that our faculty and staff and our students would engage in civil discourse, that we can mutually disagree on things and still maintain a civility and an environment of positive, constructive. I'm hopeful that we didn't go through the big crisis about whether to wear a mask or not wear a mask, and I know other schools went through a huge crisis over that. I'm hopeful that as a college, we can have our entire faculty and staff engaged in positive, constructive involvement, and that we don't have to put a bunch of limitations on everything, that we are respectful to one another. And that's a part of our value system as well, is to being a respectful, inclusive, civil community. It bothers me greatly that we're even engaged in these kinds of conversations. I never thought this would happen, but quite frankly, we will do what we need to do to maintain a civil and constructive, positive environment that's safe and secure for all our faculty, staff, and students. Craig, I'd kind of pitch it over to you from that one, from the operational standpoint.
Well, thanks, Bert. As you were talking, Jeff Flynn was sending me some information about just what kind of conversations are happening, related to campus security, at the security level. First of all, we really haven't had conversations about any kind of enhanced presence of, bringing on additional security and police forces or anything like that. We've not have talked about, and what Jeff has shared is the conversation it's a fine line between allowing, for some social discord, people sharing their thoughts and their information, the right to free speech. It's a different thing to become disruptive. I would tell you, we've always had available to us the ability to lock down buildings, to go into emergency status in any location. We're very closely connected to the police community. They watch and monitor us relatively closely. Responsiveness has, when we've needed it, and we've been very fortunate in our history, we haven't really needed a lot of it. it's feel unsafe, we have a process, and that process is to get a hold of one of the security officers. We have emergency call buttons located strategically within our buildings. We have the ability to lock down buildings immediately, and we can do all of that remotely, as opposed to kind of having to walk door to door. So we've got a way to control a situational environment, but the key is information. Information and awareness. We've got a team of people, and it's a cross-functional team of people who look at situations that we become aware of, potential security risks, and we evaluate those. And they could be on an individual basis. Social media, as an example, I think we're all watching what's happening nationally, and a lot of the information that seems to be coming to light is through social media of conversations that are happening that could prove to be something that's going to get acted upon at a later date. That's part of situational awareness. If anybody is seeing, hearing, becoming aware of that, you really need to let us know, and we'll take it very seriously. We'll do as much investigating as we can. We'll typically engage the police force in the particular area, because sometimes they know things that help amplify what we may be learning as well. And then we'll try to take appropriate action without overstepping our bounds. And that's really where things get a little tricky. How forceful can we be? How forceful should we be? Students have rights, staff has rights, even the community has rights. We are a public institution, which brings some inherent risk in and around that. So I would encourage all of you, whether it's just when you're on campus or somewhere else. I mean, I think this is a day-to-day reality for us as we navigate. And, having that situational awareness is highly critical. And, we do active shooter training, I think, as most of you know. And part of what we hear over and over again from the professionals is you got to take responsibility for yourself and have that awareness of what's going on in and around you. So no immediate show of force reactions or anything like that, but we're going to monitor things pretty closely. And if we start to see some things begin to happen, trends, information, we're going to take them pretty seriously. And I think that you're going to see that dynamic across the country, that, there is this heightened issue about how people feel, and social discord has become something of a new aggressive approach that is, quite frankly, disturbing and not very healthy.
Greg, thank you. Yeah, not easy topics to address. Max, I really do appreciate you bringing that up and asking that question. Just as a note to everybody, I want to make note, I'm not sure all of you have seen it, but both Denise and Carl are having kind of intermittent trouble with video connectivity where they're at. So it's not as though they're popping in and out, and they're here, but they're having a little connectivity issue too. If you think of a question after we adjourn here in a little bit and you didn't get a chance to ask it, we'd love to take those. You can just email us, communications@cwi.edu. I'm sure any of the cabinet members, you can email us collectively or individually as well. We're happy to take those and then get back to you on those. Appreciate the questions. And again, if you do have a question here in our remaining time together, just drop it into the Q&A. As we move forward now, it's January 13th, not a Friday, which is a good thing. And we're all very hopeful. And I think, as Craig mentioned, it is very aware. our heads are on a swivel, and we're watching around us with greater intensity than we ever have. But we look forward, and we look to hope, and we look for the new energy that a new semester brings. And I would just like to go around the virtual room here and ask each of my fellow cabinet members, what's got your juices flowing and what's got you excited for the next 4 months of the semester? And I'm going to start with Denise because she showed great taste in her Dances with Wolves video clips. I think it's some of Costner's best work, maybe second only to Bull Durham. But Denise, I'm going to start with you. And then just to give everybody else a little heads up, I'm going to come around the horn the way you are on my screen with Ryan, Carl, Craig, and then Bert will finish up with you.
Thank you, Mark. For me personally, listening to Amelia's presentation, I've felt like I've been treading water for the last several months, and I'm really anxious to start actually swimming and moving forward. So that's what I'm looking forward to now, is actually beginning to move forward. We've accomplished a lot, but I think a lot of it was forced upon us. I would like to change to become very intentional and strategic and start to set our trajectory. So I'm very excited to just move forward on projects that we have planned, not things that we've had to react to or respond to.
Awesome. Thank you, Denise. Appreciate your leadership. Ryan, you're up next.
For me personally, I think the thing that really has got me the most excited over the next 4 months is, the potential of our culture at CWI. We didn't just tread water to a certain extent. We really did thrive over the last semester. And I think a lot of that is the culture we have. Our engagement survey scores, the pulse survey we conducted really held that we have an engaged workforce, and I'm really excited to see where that moves over the next 4 months. It's only going to be good things.
Very good. Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate that. Carl, welcome to Idaho and welcome to the hot seat.
Yeah, I love it. I'll tell you, I'm super excited about a lot of things, but I will tell you that for me, 2021 is not just a metaphor for a new beginning. For me, it is a new beginning, and the opportunity to get to know the professionals on an individual basis on this campus is what excites me. I'm a very much a people person, and I am looking forward to the campus returning to some sense of normalcy so that I can work collaboratively with people in the same room. That I'm not a hologram. I'm a person who really wants to engage with the campus. But I will also tell you that one of the things that just truly has me so excited is that we are positioned very well to grow and to evolve, and our finances are so strong that I'm just super excited about being able to collaborate with the leaders to figure out what direction we're going to go, what initiatives we need to do, and what we need to do to better serve our students. Because I think that we're at the confluence of preparation and opportunity, and our opportunity is here, and we're going to do good things with it.
Great, and welcome. We're just thrilled you're here. Mr. Brown, you are next.
Well, already some great observations. I'm a forward motion person by nature, and I think Denise, you commented on that feeling like we've been in a little bit of a neutral position, and that's hard for me. If I look at change management, the fact that maybe we're not changing and moving forward on things becomes a little more challenging for me. And so I'm really looking forward to being able to kind of get back in gear and start looking, as to where we're going to go in the next 5 to 10 years. And the good news is about where we've been is we've learned so much. We've, COVID in many ways and shapes and forms has really been, and I think many of us have heard this term, it's been an accelerant as it relates to things that we already knew were on the horizon, and suddenly, pow, it's forced upon us. But I think that I see that as a good thing. I see that as a great opportunity. And as Carl has stated and others have mentioned, we're positioned so well. We are an organization, I think, that is innovative and really pretty nimble. And I just think it's exciting to think about what we can do and what we can capture on a go forward basis. And I'm ready to go.
I like it. I like it. President, you've heard from your cabinet. We've had some great questions and insight from our colleagues here. Take 2 minutes and wrap us up here with what you're most looking forward to here in 21.
You're really charging a president with 2 minutes? I want to start, first of all, Denise did such a wonderful job on her presentation. I will tell you that there's another clip out of Apollo 13 that I thought she might use as well. And that's the one where they're all sitting around and they immediately gravitate everybody together and they throw all these things. What's inside the shuttle? Because the air filtering system's dying on them. And they throw it all on the table and the one guy at the end goes, this is what they have in the shuttle. We need to figure out how to make it work. Failure is not an option. And literally CWI from day one has showed true grit, true imagination, and true culture of can do and making it happen no matter what. Failure has never been an option for CWI. I'm so proud to be a part of an organization and a team where it doesn't matter what they throw at us. We'll make lemonade out of it. If it's lemons, we're going to make lemonade and we're going to go forward and we're going to win the day. This truly is our finest hour. The first decade of CWI was stunning, absolutely amazing. We shock and awe to everybody in the community and everybody in the higher education field. CWI literally was nationally and regionally recognized as shock and awe as to what you can do when you believe in yourself. I think the biggest thing I believe in this next several years that are coming down the road, we have to continue to believe and we have to continue to reinforce with our people, faculty, staff. We make a difference and we make a significant difference when our positive, constructive attitude shines through. Hope is hope is the thing that cannot be extinguished. We have hope for the new future. We have hope for our community and our students. And literally, I know there's an ad out there right now that says, hope is that within us, light within us that cannot be extinguished. This college has a light within it that will never be extinguished. And we've proven in the first decade, it doesn't matter. We can do it. Whatever it is, we will make it happen. I want to congratulate everybody, faculty, staff, and students that have lived through this last pandemic. We're still going to become the shining light of the future. And that's what drives me every day. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, President. Thanks to each of you. We had nearly 400 at one point here on the call this morning. So appreciate you taking the time and just a special thanks to everybody behind the scenes, to the entire staff, Mark Westcott and his team, Mariah, Audrey, Zach, Ashley, and Ross Hosking on the video elements, everybody on the instructional side. There's so many names to mention, but thank you to you all. It's been a tremendous undertaking and appreciate all the efforts. Let's go out. Let's have a great in-service. Let's get ready. Let's keep our students foremost in mind, and let's be safe. Go Otters. Thank you, everybody.